Avoid traffic.
Like mid-January about here. So I'm playing basketball at the gym, and it's 13-14. My team's down by 1. I got the ball, you know. I got a defender on me. I'm playing like crossing over everything, and I shoot it like right at the free throw line, and I make it. So it's a tie game right now. I'm trying to win this for my team, so I'm defending right now, and he comes up, and I'm trying to block it. So I jump high as I can, so I miss it and make this one. But I happen to land my ankle on his foot. It twists 90 degrees sideways, and it was pretty bad. It got swollen up, and it was just bad. This is one of the biggest injuries I've had in my life, and it's affected me during playing for about 2-3 months. So what I'm going to be talking about today is 3 most common injuries in sports. I've been researching this for a while since I've got the injury, and I'm sure that you've had some experiences like this before. So I'm going to probably talking about how the treatments are going to be affected. So the first thing I'll talk about is sprained ankle. This happens when the foot is twisted like this.
Oh, damn. How do you take a picture of this?
So this happens when the foot is twisted. It rolls to the outside and sprains the ligaments. The outside of the ankle immediately begins swelling up and causes pain, which can turn black and blue. Mine turns like pretty blue, and it's about that big. Examples of this can be when a jogger steps off a curb and the ankle just like falls off to the side, or a tennis player lunges out like with a poorly planted foot and it twists. Or it could be a volleyball player who jumps up for a spike but then lands on another player's foot and turns it sideways. So one way this can be treated is by resting. Resting is probably the big thing. You can put ice on it too. Icing it, you usually want to put a big bag and then wrap it around with tape. And then you probably want to put elevation and compress it too so that it's safe and you can move it later on so you can get mobility in the ankle. So the main goal is to limit internal bleeding and cut down on swelling. And when the swelling is less, you can start moving it slowly day by day, and it's easier. And that's how you can pull this ankle faster. So the second injury I want to talk about is the runner's knee. The runner's knee is this is a knee pain that happens from misalignment of the kneecaps into the groove. So this one right here, when you move it side to side, it usually starts putting pressure against your kneecaps on the side and bones around it. So it immediately begins swelling up, and this part, the cartilage on the side of the groove and the cartilage on the back usually tend to wear out. So this usually happens when people constantly run in sports like basketball, soccer, track and field, anything like that. It just keeps going on and on. And then on the way, this can be treated and is strengthening the quadriceps muscles. It hooks into the kneecap and it helps align the center of the groove. This part usually happens to most athletes. This is really common. It's probably one of the biggest injuries that happen. So you can probably treat it. You can treat this by just taking a lot of rest, and I think this is the best way. And so the last injury I want to talk about is the groin pull. This one is pretty bad. I've had it too. This one happens when you're pushing in a side-to-side motion. It causes the strain of the inner thigh, and the muscles on the ground, which is right here. You can see that there's a tear right on the center of the side. It's most common in hockey, soccer, football, and baseball. Usually when they stretch, they tend to stretch a lot when they play, but they don't stretch before. So they have like a really big stretch, and it just tears the muscle apart. What you can do to treat this injury is like compression. I think it also helps. and then resting heals most of the injuries. You usually want to keep it in what like a laying down manner, so it's not movable. And then if you return to normal activities with any of these injuries, it can make it worse, and it's going to turn into long-term problems. So you might never ever be able to play again, because it's going to keep getting worse. So in conclusion, I talked about 3 most common injuries in sports and how you can treat them. You can make it this way. You can make them heal faster. So I hope you know more about the injuries that can happen to you. So if they do happen to you, you know how to treat them faster. Thank you.
Russell, what did you think?
I thought your personal experience worked kind of well for your opening device. The only thing is I just couldn't tell if it was like a hypothetical like situation, if it was like your real experience. The topic was clear. About the injuries, your thesis I thought was a little, unclear to me. I thought you had really good explanations on the injuries and how to treat them. I just feel like you kind of just rushed through the explanations. I feel like you could have just took your time with it, and actually kind of elaborate more on it. I thought your visual of the foot, of the ankle, kind of, getting twisted was a good visual. You got a good response from the audience. And I thought your visuals on the bones of where the injuries occur worked well too. I just thought that you could have maybe described a little more on where exactly on the bone, maybe just point out your visual and talk a little more about that. That's pretty much.
All right. I like the personal visualization at the beginning. That's, I think, an interesting attention device, and we know what your subject's going to be. The thesis statement is not as clear and exact as it ought to be, and your preview, I know generally where you're going, but I had no idea what the injuries were that you were going to talk about, and it sounded like they were going to be the most common ones, and so you ought to set those up. I don't know if we went from the most common to the least common. We had 3 that are all equally typical, or maybe they're about a particular sport. There's got to be a little bit more explanation there. You've got material in the presentation that clearly sounds like it's quoted material when you're describing the injuries, but I'm not getting any sources attributed to that, and you want to make sure to do that. The descriptions are okay. The treatments, for instance, I think you need to develop a little bit more, and that might be something that you could add a visual on. The first time you were talking about one of the treatments, you mentioned something about rest, and then there was a comment about, and you put a big bag on it, and I knew immediately. I said, okay, a big bag of ice, I assume, but I don't think you said that. Later on you were talking about icing something, but it wasn't clear on that first point, and so it was just a little strange. It's topical by the injury, so there is an organizational structure. And it's pretty clear when you move from one point to the next, because you've got a visual that goes with each of those things. The first visual, of course, got a dramatic reaction from the audience. The other 2 visuals are pretty technical in nature. You don't always make reference to the stuff that's in the visuals, especially the second 2. So I think that you miss out on an opportunity there. You've got your arms crossed a lot while you're speaking, and that looks quite defensive. The summary is okay. I think you could do a little bit more to make this interesting. For instance, you use your personal experience early on, and I thought that that was fine. Later on, you mentioned that these are common injuries. Sometimes they end careers. Well, tell us about somebody whose career was ended as a result of this. Show us or give us a story about somebody and how they were able to recover, and the reason they were able to recover is because this is the treatment that they went through. Make it a little bit more interesting. As it is, I think it's kind of dry and technical. All right. Thank you.